Hello, it's me. I know it's been a while. I've been in a reading slump. I've been in a life slump for the past 6 months. Since April. But for October, I managed to finish reading 7 books, which I know might not sound like a lot for some of you, but for me, this is a big accomplishment considering I haven't been able to finish any book since April. Well, any book that wasn't a graphic novel. Anyway, out of the 7 books, how many of these? 1, 2. Out of the 7 books that I finished, 4 of those were graphic novels. I gave 3 5 stars, 3 4 stars, and 1 3 star. So it was a pretty good reading month for me. The age groups I read, I didn't read any adult books, but I read 4 young adult and 3 middle grade. A bit on the young spectrum, I guess, but whatever. And then for the new / backlist titles that I read, 3 of those were new releases and then the rest were backlist. I participated in the Tim Burton Readathon, which was hosted by Medusa Reads, and I also attempted the Witchathon again. And just like last time, I failed pretty bad. The Witchathon was hosted by Crescent Moon Reads. The first book that I finished reading was Fake Blood by Whitney Gardner. This was cute. So this is about a boy. He has a crush on this girl and he's like head over heels for her. But he realizes that this girl is really obsessed with vampires. So he tries to pretend to be a vampire himself, and then he later finds out that this chick that he's crushing on is a vampire slayer. So he's like, oh no, she's gonna kill me and all of that. It's really cute. I thought it was gonna be YA, but it's actually more middle grade. I gave it a solid 4 stars. The art is pretty cute. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I talked about this a bit in my October reading vlog. There were some things about this that seemed a little too convenient, especially in the end. Like, the older sister randomly shows up and saves the day. I don't know where she came from, but I like how it insinuated that the girl saves the day. I also enjoyed the pop culture references here, particularly the one with Harry Potter and especially the one with Twilight. It was cute. I enjoyed it. Would recommend. But if you're not into middle grade, maybe you can like skip this. The second book that I managed to finish was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell with art by Erin, Hicks. First of all, the ambiance of this was super fall, super autumn vibes. And I don't have the autumn season here where I'm from, but reading this, it felt like I was in that season. I don't know, there's just something about how the story was set in like a pumpkin patch, like a pumpkin Halloween festival for like you're just very immersed in the environment, which I really appreciated. It really felt like I was in the fall season basically. The synopsis of this, it's not super clear that it suggests that it's friends to lovers, but this is basically a friends to lovers story. I already said this in my vlog, but friends to lovers is the superior trope. Let's just put it out there. So immediately when I figured it out that this was friends to lovers, it won me over. It took my heart. And it's just super cute. I heard someone say that this doesn't really have much of a plot, which I see where they're coming from, but also I just enjoyed being along for the ride and like the 2 characters recapping their friendship the past couple of years. I forgot to talk what this was about. So Pumpkinheads follows these 2 characters named, what's their name? Josie and Deja. So they've been friends at this pumpkin patch festival thing for the past how many years, and they only get together during this season. And with this book, it's already their last year, like the year before they're gonna go to college. So they're like, oh no, it's our last year together, we have to make the most of it. So Deja is like, YOLO, go and confess your feelings to that girl you've been crushing on all this time. And it's just like a wild goose chase of trying to find this girl throughout the pumpkin patch, and the 2 of them, of Josie and Deja, just reliving their friendship, and it's very pure. It made me so soft. It's so cute. I enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars. I know it doesn't have much of a plot, but you win me over with that friends to lovers trope. Then the next book I finished was The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. This was the first full-on novel that I was able to finish for the first time in 6 months. Oh my god, go me! Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking me out of my reading slump. So this involves our character Prosper Redding. He's part of the Redding family. The Redding family is it's a very prestige family in this small town. They're rich and they're known, and like I think the town was named after them or something like that. Early on, you figure out that Prosper is kind of bullied, and despite being part of a prestigious family, it kind of works against him. There's this demon that possesses him because that demon has a grudge against the Reddings because their ancestor, like the very first Redding, Honor Redding, betrayed him. So it follows Prosper having to deal with this demon that's living inside of him, and like the shenanigans about it, like is his family gonna kill him because they want the demon out of him or something like that. I really enjoyed this. It was really wholesome. This is Alexandra Bracken's first middle grade venture. This is also my first Bracken book. This was so cute. It's really wholesome. I think the highlight of this book is definitely the banter between Prosper and Alastor, the demon. It's very reminiscent of Eddie Brock and Venom, or Naruto and the QB, but more, I guess, more of Eddie and Venom. The banter between these two, it gives a touch of humor to an otherwise young but kind of creepy book. The banter was definitely entertaining, and it gave Alastor as a character more depth. Like, he's more than just a demon, and Prosper is just this sassy little kid that you can't help but root for. I did appreciate how this book really got the ball rolling right away, and I think that's also because it benefited from being a bit of an urban fantasy, at least in this book, and that it didn't have to really do much world building. So I like how it was fast-paced at the beginning, and then towards the middle I was a bit taken away from the story because it was set in the school. There was just something about that everyday life that felt a little I can do without it. But I feel like those bits in school were also necessary because we got to see more of Prosper and what he's like with other people, and you see how he sort of breaks out of his shell a bit in this new school, and it also teaches readers how to not only stand up for other people but for yourself as well. It teaches readers to accept yourself, to love yourself despite the differences that you have. Like, you can be different and it would be totally okay. It teaches you to love yourself despite being different from everyone else. And I think that's such an important lesson to teach young kids. Anyone of any age can benefit from that kind of lesson, but especially to young kids, especially to like the target market of this book, it's a very good message to send out to the youth. There were plot twists at the end that I didn't really see coming, so the fact that I couldn't predict them really added to my enjoyment of the story. Similarly to Pumpkinheads, this was also atmospheric, and I don't know, it felt cold, but in a good way. Like, you could feel that the weather was cold, that it was dark and eerie. I really like that about this. So I gave this 5 stars. I had a really good reading month. I don't know if it's because I've just been in a reading slump and everything I consumed for October just felt like a breath of fresh air, but I gave this 5 stars. I don't regret it. It was worth it. I had a good reading month. There was one thing about this though that I feel like it could have benefited from having a little more meat like, I don't know, I feel like it would have been better if it supplied more context to the backstory, especially with Alastor and Honor Redding. But we do get that in the sequel, which is The Last Life of Prince Alastor. So I read this right after the first book, and it definitely gave me what I felt was lacking in the first book, which was, I guess, more world building, more context, more backstory to Alastor and like how this whole arrangement came to be. This one it's not really an urban fantasy anymore because it's set in Alastor's world. We still follow Prosper and Alastor is still possessing him, but they're in the underworld because they have to save Prosper's twin sister Prue. I like how this was set in the like the underworld, the downstairs. It's called the downstairs in this world. I like how this book was set in the downstairs because We got to see more about Alastor's world and what fiends are, and just we learn a lot more about Alastor basically. Prosper shows a lot of character growth in this as well. You can see him struggling to make like good versus bad decisions. Like, is a decision really evil if you're doing it with good intentions? Is someone really bad if they're doing something good? There's a lot of those themes in this book, and I like how you can really see the struggle in Prosper and how he struggles to maintain his integrity when all he wants to do is save his family. We get to see the origins of Alastor's relationship with Honor Redding, like how the betrayal came to be, how they even met in the first place. I really like that because it showed another facet to Alastor, like he's more than just this evil demon. There was also this theme because the downstairs, it's kind of falling apart, and it's because all of the fiends have been always so greedy about magic, and it's losing magic, so it's falling apart. And I feel like, I don't know if this was Alexandra Bracken's intention, but it made me think of climate change. You know how the earth is dying because we as humans have always been so greedy and we're not giving back to it. That's what, I don't know, I feel like the downstairs falling apart was alluding to climate change. And even if it wasn't, that's what I got, and I do think that is also a nice lesson to give to kids. You know, teach them about climate change. I feel like I would have liked to see more of Alastor's relationship with his other siblings, not just his relationship with his sister. The same goes with Prue and Prosper, because I feel like Prue was just there as a plot device, as a foil to Prosper, and I don't know, I didn't really know what to feel about her because she was just a plot device. And then at the end at the end I was crying because there's a bit here where, like, do I say it? It's spoilers. At the end I was crying and I did not anticipate all these feels. Like, I went into the series thinking that it would be a creepy but just an easy read, which it was, but also I didn't expect to be so attached to the characters, and I was so attached that at the end I was crying. And it's been a while. It's been a while since a book was able to really get me to cry. So needless to say, this was another 5 stars. The next book I read was The Graveyard Book. I read the graphic novel. I read the novel just once, and it was a couple of years ago. So the details about The Graveyard Book were kind of fuzzy to me, so this was a nice refresher. Maybe this is a spoiler, I don't know. But Silas, the guardian of Bod, our main character, I never knew that he was a vampire when I read the novel. Like, I don't know, it went over my head entirely when I read it that time. I don't know, I guess I just didn't pick up on the context clues that he's a vampire. But in the graphic novel, since it's visual, you know that, you know what you're seeing, you get what you see. So Silas is a vampire, and I had no idea, but thank God I read the graphic novel because now I know better. It's by Neil Gaiman, by the way, and the graphic novel features different artists, but the adaptation was by P. Craig Russell. So if you don't know the story of The Graveyard Book, it follows our protagonist Bod, short for Nobody Owens. Bod was left in a graveyard because his entire family was killed by this man named Jack, and he's raised basically by the ghosts in the graveyard. Volume 1 covers chapter 1 to the interlude, so it shows different vignettes of Bod's life growing up and what it's like being raised by ghosts and his first interaction with another human child. So it's more of like establishing what Bod's life is like. And then in volume 2, which covers chapter 6 until the end, we see an older Bod. There are bits of volume 2 where he's still like a kid, but towards the end he's like growing into an adult, and then it all comes to a head when he encounters the same man who killed his family. You get to see him really mature in volume 2. Towards the end, when he's an adult, he starts to lose his ghostly abilities that he learned growing up. It was a sign of like, okay, it's time to move on, time to go to the real world and explore your life, your potential. Potential is a big theme in the series. Silas says it a lot. Like, Bod isn't afraid of dying because he's like, well, I'm surrounded by ghosts, I can be with everyone anyway. But Silas is like, no, it's not your time, you have so much potential, you have to live out your life. So I think that's a nice message to send out. Getting on like a deeper note, sometimes, you know, you just want to give up, and like sometimes life is just like, I can't do this anymore. It's nice to hear someone tell you that you have so much potential. No matter how old you are, like where you are in your life, you have a lot of potential, and I think that's a nice message to give out. Volume 1 I gave 4.5 stars, and then volume 2 I gave 4.75 stars. I didn't give it a full 5 stars because it was a bit not really dragging, but I don't know, I couldn't really fully commit to that 5-star rating, you know. But volume 2 felt more emotional to me, which is why I gave it a higher score. My last book of October 2019 happens to be my lowest rated read for the month, and that is These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. It's not a bad rating. I gave this book 3.25 stars. If you don't know what this is about, it follows our protagonist named Hannah. She's an actual witch. She's an elemental, which means she has some control over the elements. She lives in Salem, and suddenly there are these signs that show up that suggest that there's a blood witch. Apparently blood witches are very dangerous. Hannah starts seeing these clues that suggest that there might be a blood witch, but no one will believe her. Her coven doesn't really believe that there's a blood witch around. Hannah has to team up with her ex-girlfriend Veronica to like figure out who the blood witch is and all that. First off, I really like the diversity in this. Like, we have a lesbian main character, a bi girl, and then we have either a bi-curious girl, or maybe she's like just recently realizing that she's lesbian. Like, she hasn't come out of the closet, but then she does the do with another girl, you know. And then there's also a trans gay boy. I know he's a trans boy, but I don't know if it's explicitly established that he's gay, or maybe he's bi, or maybe he's pan, or maybe he's ace. I don't know. I like the whole Wicca witches thing. That was super enjoyable for me. But for some reason, I couldn't really emotionally invest in the characters. I couldn't really connect to them. I don't know if that was just me, or if that was because the author didn't really do much to establish and develop relationships among characters. With Hannah and Veronica, as soon as the book starts, it's already pretty established that they've broken up. But the book always stresses on how much of a history they've had, because they were best friends since they were very young. They were best friends before they even got together, before Hannah even realized she was into girls. So they have a long history together. I didn't really see much character growth in Hannah other than, well, she has a hero complex, that's for sure. But I don't know if that was her being like, I gotta protect my family and my friends, or if she's just like overestimating herself. And also, spoiler, big spoiler, Hannah's dad dies in the book, but I did not feel any remorse or any sympathy for Hannah, because throughout the book you don't really feel that Hannah is all that. I mean, you can tell that she loves her family, but it's like the book did not bother establishing a deep enough connection between Hannah and her dad for the reader to feel the gravity of Hannah's dad's death. Did that make any sense? Yeah. So since the book didn't really establish how much Hannah loves her dad and how important their relationship actually was to her, since there wasn't much of that development, when Hannah's dad dies, you don't really feel the impact of the incident. My camera died. Okay, what was I saying? There's a lot of work that needs to be done with just the development of the characters and their relationships with one another, because it lacks that emotional depth and impact that you would have otherwise experienced with like something as major as a character death. There just wasn't any impact because we never really saw how much Hannah's dad really meant to her. I would have liked it if we got a bit more closure around Hannah and Veronica's relationship, especially since the book always referenced how much of a history they've always had, right? The ending was so abrupt. I really would have liked seeing how Hannah and Veronica are, how Veronica's new relationship is going, how Hannah's new relationship was gonna go. Maybe that'll be in the sequel, because the ending of this book really sets itself up for the sequel. Maybe those things that I want to see with the relationship characters. Maybe I'll get that in the second book. Maybe it'll just be referenced again. I don't know. I really hope not, because I plan on getting the sequel, because the ending was so abrupt. I know you can set yourself up for a sequel, but this felt like it was just cut off. I would still recommend this if you're into like Wicca witch books, but I just wish there was just more character development and development between characters. So those are all the books I read for October. 7 books in all. This video was all over the place because I don't know how to make wrap-ups anymore. I don't know how to make videos anymore. I don't know how to talk to the camera anymore. Though to be fair, I never really knew how to properly talk to the camera anyway. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the new subscribers that have somehow subscribed and stayed in the past couple of months that I've not been around and active. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. These are all the books I read in October. Hooray! Okay, bye!